They have since returned to Outworld and are using the souls of conquered warriors to resurrect the Dragon King's undefeatable army. Should they succeed, they will have the means to conquer Outworld and eventually Earthrealm. They will be unstoppable. I can no longer stand idly by and watch this evil consume the world. I have relinquished my status as Elder God to return to Earth and lead you all to battle against our old adversaries. We must act now. We must stop this deadly alliance.
We are finally onto the next generation. PlayStation 2 housing a lot of amazing games and one of the best libraries of any game console ever. A new Mortal Kombat game was expected. At the time, there was a 5-year gap, which was unheard of for this franchise. And with Tekken running the fighting game ring with 2 releases before we even got one Mortal Kombat game, there is a lot this game needs to do right to win us back. Coming off of Mortal Kombat 4, a lot of people were not happy with that game, including myself, just being simply outclassed by what is around it in the fighting game department. Also, with Tekken 3 being a thing, nothing could compare to it, so let's just be real with that. It's never gonna win no matter what. Very clunky fighting, poor graphics, the 3D but not really gameplay. It needed some serious improvement, so when Deadly Alliance was coming, that was expected. Is this game worthy of the Mortal Kombat name, and did this improve on what 4 started? It's been 21 whole years since this game came out, and I am ready to see if it is shit or not. Funny, I have never actually played this game before. Still being very young, I wasn't all interested in this franchise yet. Then growing older, newer and better things were out, like Mortal Kombat Deception, then eventually 9, X, the Tekken games as well, like Tekken 5 and 6, so it just ended up staying in the dust for me. I never see anyone talking about this game either. Maybe it's just not memorable to people, so hopefully that's not a bad sign. This is when they actually tried to build up the story of the game, giving an intro cutscene talking about what's going on. We had a very simple story in the first 3 games. Shao Kahn is not here, Shinnok from the last game is not here. To put it short, Shang Tsung and Quan Chi started an alliance with each other. They killed Shao Kahn and they killed Liu Kang. So this duo essentially became the big bad guy or bad guys of this game. I feel like to some that could have left more to be desired, right? Since we're used to Shao Kahn, a large intimidating guy as the ending boss. I mentioned with Shinnok last time just being a short dork for a final boss and was very uninteresting. But thankfully we have more to go off of with this game, making it more enticing to kill these assholes. The choice of gameplay is pretty lacking here with only 2 modes to play, or 3 if you want to count practice, which I don't. As bad as I said Mortal Kombat 4 was, it had other ways to play, like survival and stuff, so that kind of sucks. But Conquest is probably the story mode here, so we're gonna start with that. Or actually, I have to make a profile so all my stuff will save. I know this is a staple going forward, I just never understood it. Why can't I just save without me having to do this? Maybe to add more personalization, but it's not online, and other people can't see it, so what's the point? I remember I'd actually try to make a code in Armageddon for my profile, then forget my code later and get pissed off. Finally going into Conquest mode, this is essentially just a glorified tutorial with some extra stuff thrown in. We have a monk talking to us between lessons like we're actually learning a martial art, which I kinda guess is the point, so I can't fault them there for telling me that my path will be enlightened and what I learn here will help me kill everyone that I see. You have 8 missions to begin with that are all simple things, learning how to throw, move, sidestep, punch, kick, combos, all that good stuff. A lot here has changed from Mortal Kombat 4 to Deadly Alliance. I was just getting used to the old games since I've been playing them a lot for videos recently. Finally jumping into the whole experience, it's just so much you gotta learn. Getting used to the new mechanics since everything was overhauled for the 3D movement. This was the age where that was the cool thing to do. All fighting games had to be in 3D, Tekken popularized it, then everything else has to follow the trend of course, and that same thing still happens in modern times. But thankfully the movement is actually fluid and not a clunky mess like Mortal Kombat 4 with the fake 3D ass shit. After you get to the end, you have the ability to see the other characters and do their own trials, so to speak. Every single one has 10 of them, including the initial 8 that you start with, adding to a total of 218 of them, which would probably take a really long time to finish. I try my best not to practice the game before I go into the ladder or story to get the most raw experience possible, so I just messed around with a couple of these ones on Kano just to see how they were. It's all simple stuff, helping you learn his combos, special moves, and giving you some backstory on the character, which is really nice to have, actually fleshing out the world for the first time in this franchise. Finishing each of these gives you coins for the crypt. There are so many rewards in here, it's actually insane. You can get alternate costumes, characters, concept arts, and tons of other stuff. Finishing this all out probably takes forever, or you can look up online which ones have the characters and good stuff, then leave the rest for later or just not get them at all. Finally delving into the arcade mode, which is the thing I wanted to do the most. Looking at the selection here, it's pretty bland to me. You start out with 12 characters, no one's really that interesting. Sure, Scorpion and Sub-Zero are there, Quan Chi is pretty cool I guess, Kano too. I struggle with who to pick, but I ended up settling on Kung Lao since I never use him in any of these games. Our first fight is Movado, and now I'll finally talk about the combat system in this game, which is really good actually. You have 3 fighting styles, 2 hand-to-hand and 1 weapon fighting style. Your range is increased with the weapon style, but you take more damage in it. You really need to be careful since you can die extremely fast, especially as you get up the ladder. This game was not released in arcade, so obviously it's not going to be a disgusting mess to go against, but you still have to be careful. The whole thing is manageable to beat if you're competent at the game. This being my first run through and no practice, naturally I'm going to struggle when the AI becomes harder. The bottom of the tower is always brain dead easy, unless you're playing Mortal Kombat Trilogy where the game is fucked right on the second fight. I get to learn more of my character's moves and actually have some breathing room in this game. On Kenshi, I figured out if you press L1, you can stab your sword into your opponent, making him bleed damage, and it lasts for quite some time. I was shocked for how much it actually did to him. Thankfully it killed him because I probably would have lost that fight if I didn't get lucky with that. Johnny Cage is where I started sniffing the AI shit with them blocking a lot, countering your moves more, sidestepping them. Me still trying to figure things out, I started to struggle at this point of the game since I was not sure of what the AI exploits were yet and the moves I could use to make sure I can win at all times. Because you know how these games are, you always need to know something in the back of your mind because these AI are always just cheap as shit and you gotta make sure you know how to win. I always make the mistake of trying to play like it's a real fight against a person. Of course this is Mortal Kombat AI after all, so you have to play like a dumbass to win, which is the sad truth. This stage has a cool mechanic where if you go near the edge with those glass balls that have acid in, it sprays out on your opponent or you if they hit you into it, which is a really nice touch. It's nice they brought Test Your Might back again, just a cute little thing to get some extra coins. This was very early on in the tower, so it's easy for a small reward. Kano is the next opponent for me. I was starting to get the hang of things a little bit more, noticing holding forward and pressing circle does this spinning attack with my weapon and does a nice chunk of damage. It's an important thing to keep in my back pocket for when this game starts becoming atrocious. Kung Lao has some cheap ass moves that are spammable, like his best combo against the AI in this game is just pressing square 3 times in Mantis style. For some reason the low frame startup moves like that are always broken against the AI in these games, in any fighting game really. The classic 1-1-2 combo works in almost every single game. Bo Raicho of all people is where I actually started getting irritated with the computer. I love how he can just hold his forearm up to a sword and eat it like nothing. This guy was countering everything I did. Once I figured out this spinning kick move, I utilized it whenever I thought I could get it off without it being blocked or countered. Of course, like 70% of the time it got blocked, but that's what you have to do. I'm glad this game has more skill depth than the other ones, but playing against the AI has not changed much since you have to keep using the same 3 to 4 moves over and over again to win. Since everything for me gets countered, blocked, or the AI instantly sidesteps it to hit you, which gets really annoying. It does not make me too mad though, since I feel like I'm more in control. The AI aren't cheating or anything, it's just being annoying as shit. I was trying my best to keep my distance. The computer loves to chase and chase and chase, so if you try to be more reserved with your movement and let them move forward towards you, you'll have better opportunities to win against them here, which is what I did. I had no idea what the fatalities are, the only time I could see them is when they're done to me. Next up was a mirror match, but this Kung Lao was wearing a green shirt or whatever the hell he's wearing. At some moments I kept forgetting which style I was in since there's 3 of them in the game, and I'm still not used to the whole switching thing. Sadly, I don't know how to do these crazy combos of switching styles and doing some insane shit. Surely it's the best addition to the game though, since it adds way more depth, and the more depth you have in a fighting game, the better the game will be overall. I always felt like 3D fighting games took more skill than 2D ones, since you have to pay attention to your movement, combos and all, and there's just so much to keep track of. He beat me once, but I resorted back to the pussy play square 3 times combo for winning. Now it's the end here since we see Moloch. He's pretty boring to me. It's like a Smurf made his fake natural Instagram account. No personality, no nothing. I know there's some backstory on him in the Conquest mode, but this is me speaking at face value. This is the sub-boss of a Mortal Kombat game, so of course you need to know some sort of exploit, glitch, or spammable move that will allow you to win, since they are always the most brain-dead, boring fights of the entire ladder. As cool as a lot of the sub-bosses are, I don't really think that's an argument. I love how randomly loading into a fight the game just gives me a test your might to do out of left field. I wasn't sure what was going on here. Sometimes he just wouldn't get hurt by my moves, and I was like, what the hell's going on? I was so confused. The cheating shit is something I hoped would stay back in the games from the 90s, not bring it back. But slowly I found it. We go back to the square, square, square move again. If you hit that move, you back up, the AI will always do this short range punch, and you keep doing that move over and over again to win. The quote-unquote skill required is knowing the timing to make the exploit actually work. I have never felt so accomplished in my life beating a cheap cocksucker like this guy is. Now we are at Shang Tsung. I figured you'd have to fight them together similar to an endurance round on the older games, but it's just one at a time. Kinda weird way to set it up, but sure. He's basically just whatever difficulty AI you chose in Overdrive. He's annoying, juggling me, doing these insane combos, sidestepping me faster faster than a human could even respond. It's just ridiculous. Most of these later fights I would lose at least 2 times before I won. I enjoyed how intense it was though. Sometimes the AI being fucked is not always a bad thing since they're not cheating here, and constantly being an asshole, these fights can become really tense, making it hyped up when you win against people like Shang Tsung. Before Quan Chi, the game tossed me a bone with a new minigame called Test Your Sight, which you need to find the Mortal Kombat coin underneath some cups while they move around. Fun little thing to add to the game for some extra coins. I was tired of this shit at this point. I was not fucking around anymore. It is my turn to go into overdrive. I kept my distance so hard, exploiting the hell out of Quan Chi, spamming the same stupid moves and combos. Not one round was taken off of me, and I wish I could have cut him in half with my hat or something. After that, we get Kung Lao's ending, and that makes Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, which was a huge step in the franchise, honestly, redeeming itself from the piece of crap that was Mortal Kombat 4. Sure, if you look at it now, it's not much. The roster's not that interesting, but it spiced up the gameplay to turn heads and make people intrigued. Even though it's old, it's still a pretty good game. I will not say the game's amazing, because there's a lot of criticism about it that can ruin the experience for a lot of players and left more to be desired. I already mentioned how bland the character roster is here. The new ones just didn't add anything special and are not memorable at all. At least with Mortal Kombat 4, you had Fujin as a character. Shinnok redeemed himself as a character in Mortal Kombat X, but everyone knew how worthless the other ones were, like Jarek, Kai, and Reiko. I only know them here because I'm looking at them, otherwise the roster is just forgettable. Characters like Su Hao were hated by the community a lot. Mavado, Li Mei are just uninspired with no real taste or creativity. Granted, I appreciate the attempt at adding new characters. If they listened to the grander community, every single Mortal Kombat character would just be a ninja. No stage fatalities at all, which is crazy. The stages are really good looking. My favorite one is on the Acid Bath. It just ends up being another downgrade from the last games we played. But the biggest hit to the characters was the move list. Not the combos, just special moves and fatalities. Some people only having 2 special moves in a next generation game is unacceptable if you ask me. I was more than shocked to see that opening Kung Lao's move list during my playthrough. Seriously, only 2? That's Mortal Kombat 1 quality of movesets, like get real. Finally, each character only having 1 fatality. It was a real blow since the roster of this game is not that big. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 had 2 per character, same with Mortal Kombat 4, even Mortal Kombat Trilogy with that huge amount of characters. Of course, some of them were complete garbage, but the variety was there for players. Here it gets boring to do the same fatalities over and over again, making it pointless to even have them at all. Usually stage fatalities, friendships, and babalities spice it up to how you end the match. And sadly, this game just doesn't have that. Even with the negatives said, I would recommend to play this game a little bit and try it out. You can have a lot of fun playing this game with the Conquest mode, unlocking the characters from the crypt, and the other rewards it has to offer can give you a lot of playtime. We also have to thank it for being good enough to put Mortal Kombat back on the map. It does have valid arguments against it, obviously, like we just mentioned them, but the combat is genuinely good here. The previous game was so bad that it could have really led to the end of the series. Think about it, 3 trash games in a row, Mortal Kombat Mythologies, Mortal Kombat 4, and Mortal Kombat Special Forces back to back to back. If Deadly Alliance was a complete failure of a game, then this could have marked the end of Mortal Kombat. Of course, this was the late 90s and early 2000s, so innovation was happening non-stop in the gaming industry. Things kept coming out bigger and better, technology was becoming even more powerful, and no one had any idea what was going to come after this game.